Okay, I've got an absolute delight to introduce Sara Pazell. So Sara is going to talk to you about human-centered design. She is the director of Viva Health at Work, and I'll pass over to Sara. Thank you so much.
Cheers, thanks. Thank you. So I'd like to talk about human-centered design, designing for all of us here in this room, you and I. It speaks to some very savvy leadership and a design philosophy for innovation. It means also that we need to have an organization that's ready to cope with innovation. It can be clumsy, it can be messy, it may be a little bit dirty, and sometimes it's a little bit like this. Or you put your thumb in the wind, the heuristics, and it may flop. I think something goes like that. So can we actually plan for a little bit of failure in order to have some great things happen? Are we able to tolerate that in our organization? Let me dispel some myths for a moment. This is what it is not. Human-centered design is not about screening out all of the workers who may be a problem in our organization. Human-centered design is not about choosing the gladiator, if anybody remembers Rocky IV, Dolph Lundgren, right? It is not about physically conditioning and behaviorally conditioning our workers so that they absolutely will comply, they will never have an injury, and they will completely act in accordance with every SOP ever written, policy and procedure. It's quite different. Human-centered design, what is it? It's about designing for the variability and actually celebrating the diversity that is available among all of us. Part of the assumptions in the technology of human-centered design, that comes from ergonomics, participatory ergonomics, and that's where we start to understand what are the tasks that you're requested to do, what are those activities, and what's the diversity with all of you as you may approach that activity. How do we analyze that? How do we study that? And the best way to analyze and to study the work that you do is to ask you, the workers. Subject matter experts, the term we use, the SMEs. So if you want to learn about how a mechanic does his job, you ask the mechanic. You involve them in that analysis. It's a very empowering process, very empathetic process, and when you can, you step in their shoes. You live their life for a moment. Then you ask that worker to get involved in the redesign of that work. So they become part of your collaborative design partners, architects of superior work design. That's part of the tools and the process of human-centered design. I'm going to ask you to animate with me. I'm quite animated, so I'm going to ask you to join along. And if you can just put your thumb on your palm, thumbs up if you somewhat agree. Yeah, a little shake of the hand, not so certain, and thumbs down if you absolutely do not agree. But it's not just about co-design. So try it with me. I haven't seen a thumb happening here. Here, here, or here. Okay, so get ready to give me your response. Human-centered design is about co-design, but it's also beyond that. It's about applying the science of human performance technology, understanding some of the things that Melissa spoke about. Physically, that most of us need to walk and move and play, yeah? We want fresh air, we want clean, sanitized water, we want access to some good nutrition. Anybody got a thumb down here? No? Thumbs up. Okay, keep it going. Cognitively, we want to be able to think well. We want a space that encourages that good thought. We want to be challenged in our thinking, but not over-challenged where we freeze and can no longer operate well. And when we use technology, we want it not to get in the way of good thinking about the real strategies we need to solve, the real challenges, yeah? Thumbs? Yeah, okay, we're still there. Organizationally, we want a clear path, unfettered. We want a path where we're just left to do good work. We don't want any politics to get in the way of that work. So we want to pave a path. I saw a big thumb up there. we want a path that's paved, that's clear for us. We want good communication and transparency. So we understand the expectations and we're given the resources to do those expectations. That's part of the applied science, yeah? How are you feeling now? Still thumbs up. Okay, this is good. We got some consensus. There is a technique in human-centered design that we employ for optimism. It's called appreciative inquiry. So when we ask our workers to get involved in the design of the work, we say, hey, What's going on that's really working well? Working well? How do we celebrate that? Then we say, but there's more. What do you dream could happen? If you had an unfettered path, what do you dream? You had resources allocated. What would happen? What's that destiny? And how do you design that to occur? Appreciative inquiry. It's very, very positive. It's very, very empathetic. That's when good things can occur. And it takes it, again, animate with me. Come here and put your hands in your low belly and curl over, please, in your seats with the space you've got available. It takes it from this risk-hazard base. Let's go forward. Yeah, feel it with me. You'll get more out of it if you feel it. So it takes it out of this space of fear. Hazard and risk-based only, fear. Finding expectations, always stay right where we are, versus right up high, right up here, big arms, do it, you'll feel good, extend the body, lift the hands, hope, having only positive expectations. That's where it moves the line of thinking, from fear to hope. Because I can tell you this, when I asked, when's the last time you had an incredibly brilliant idea, a creative way of thinking? What were the conditions? How did that occur? This is what I do not hear from workers. Well, it was the 7th hour while I was sitting at my desk in rows and rows and rows and rows of desks among my colleagues. In fact, I ate my lunch at my desk that day under the fluorescent lighting, and I was writing my compliance to standard operating procedures. Yeah, that's not what I hear about when they have the most innovative environment. And that's why I talk about, can we create some chaos in our work to permit innovation? Are we ready for that? So why is it important? Why is human-centered design important? Human-centered design helps shift the balance of work toward health. We know that the workplace is actually a healthful environment. Oh, let me pause on that thought. The workplace is actually a healthful environment because we know, evidential research states, that workers have a far more healthy profile than non-workers. Stress, anxiety, mental health is lower. Smoking rates are lower. Financial stability, better. Education, better. Nutrition and education of children of workers, better than non-workers. The only thing that seems to be a little bit equal in Australian society is drinking is about the same for workers and non-workers. I'll leave that to you to figure out. Okay, but overall, work is actually provides for health. But how do we continually move those scales for optimum health? How do we keep that moving toward optimum health? And it goes a little bit like this. It's far beyond a zero harm policy, where I go to work and I want to come home exactly the same way I entered. I return the same way I entered. Because when I go to work, I want to socially connect with all of you. I want to belong. I want to become something more. I want to be challenged. I want to be inspired and feel like I have contributed to something good, a big picture. I want far more than zero harm. I want to go beyond that, and I want health to be promoted in my workplace. You're welcome to do this, yeah, anytime, okay? And I'll give you a little clue. If we have allocated our resources more heavily in injury management, rather than developing teams for superior work design for health and productivity, we've probably got the equation wrong. So just something to ponder. Again, I'm going to ask you here in your response to these 3 questions. Let's look at the unity between safety, health, and wellness, as well as productivity. Thumbs up, not so sure, thumbs down. And I sometimes get different answers here. So first question. Give me your response. Can you have safety without health and well-being? Check the safety registers, comply. Yeah, you can. Okay, so your answer is not right or wrong. Don't worry about what your neighbor says, okay? This is for you contextualizing your setting. Again, I'll ask the question. Can you have safety without health or well-being? Let's see those thumbs. Okay. Okay, interesting. Different responses. Can you have health without safety at work? We've got the occupational hygiene specialist back there. It'll be interesting response there. Can you have health without safety at work? Mixed. Some people scared to give me those answers. Let go of the fear. Have fun today. May you be well in unsafe conditions. Mixed responses. I'll tell you who gave me an absolute thumbs up. That was the military. The boys in the military. I thought, Ah, interesting. Okay, we've got to ponder that one, but we've got some mixed responses. But at least you can start to see that they're interwoven, that there is a connection somewhere in that line of questioning. And when we engage participatory ergonomics that we spoke about earlier, where we use subject matter experts to help analyze and design good work, now we're talking about this concept of engagement. So there's 51% of our workers who are kind of sitting on the fence, not quite sure, and the 18% who are actively disengaged, who are working against our company strategies, against our company policies. Well, it's a whole another way of thinking. You actually get to be involved in your work design. We've got a process of engagement. The literature continually tells us that culture and morale is up when we're engaging our workers with the process of participatory ergonomics. So how's it used? Just a little bit extra theory, then we go to some case studies. I'm the first to admit that about 60% of my job role is to be a catalyst for communication. What do you think? How could it work better? How can we be inspired? And I think about lifecycle ergonomics. Many of us think about product lifestyle or lifecycle or equipment lifecycle. My interest is in human lifecycle. From hire to retire, what happens? So imagine if somebody held your hand at work and said, you matter. I believe in you. I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to help mentor and inspire you. And I'm going to ask you, when you feel ready, when you have the resources allocated, to lead. I want your opinion about how work can be improved. From hire to retire, the life cycle of that worker, well supported. That's my interest. So here's a little example. Maybe, yep. This is on an asphalt roadworks project where the guys had never really reported this hazard. This is just the way work happened. This Bitech adhesive tape is rolled up on the asphalt mat. In this case, in the project in Croy, 64 kilometers worth of rollout, and it happens like that. The only reason this came up when the guys started to help contribute to the analysis of this work was I said, guys, it's just a routine observation and conversation. I'm just coming out to learn about your work. Before I leave today, if you had every resource available to you, what might you change? And of course, it's like, yeah, right, sister. But then it's like, really? I said, before I walk away here today, if anything was possible, what might you change in this asphalt roadworks project? 28 ergonomic interventions. And that actually hurts your forearms, believe it or not, as well, of course, as your back. Slip, trip, risks falls. There's mobile plant equipment that comes around. You'll see a tip truck not too far. Hours upon hours upon hours in the hot sun. This is how the work's been done for 15, 20 years. 28 ergonomic interventions, 8 to 9 months later. It looks, when you see the solution, it looks easy, but there's iterations, there's back and forth, there's resource allocation, there's somebody taking responsibility for the project, there's looking after the suppliers who gave us some free Bitech to continue to play with. This is what the guys have, so you can get that video going. This task was a highly profitable task, so I got support from the project manager to say, oh yeah, see if you can improve it, mate. And this is what the guys came up with, from 3 workers to 1 worker. Now they're physically conditioned. The guys love it. We've got gearing on this, adjustable height. And the work team celebrated this, told other work teams, this is what's got to happen. It became published and celebrated in the last International Asphalt Conference last year in the Gold Coast. Thank you. 8 months, though. Can we tolerate on our project management 8 months of work? Most companies can't. 1 or 2 months is when they kind of say, is the project done yet? Where are we at? All right, so this is what I'm talking about. Are we ready to tolerate and celebrate some of this change? Very quickly, when I analyze with workplaces and evaluate what happens with a project, I often say, okay, did we address a risk for fatality? Yes, we did in that case. And can we go on from looking at a human doing to a human being to someone who's becoming and belonging? And yes, we got celebration, we got international accolades for this, and it goes all the way through for profitability, right through to engagement at a bigger level. So I use this little checklist, and my friends at the Australian Green Development Forum are now teaching me to say, can you construct and deconstruct with sustainability? So you could add that to that spectrum. When I go out and have a look at some job trucks, I say, can you give me any feedback about your job trucks, mate? We're looking at the procurement. No, she's right, mate. This is just how they come. It's how they always come. So we say, let me step in your shoes. I'm your new worker. train me as though I was going to operate and be on your crew. And as they come through, and step by step, we analyze the task cognitively and biomechanically. We find out, well, lo and behold, actually there's quite a lot of problems. 50 kilos to lift on and off the truck. There's batteries that are completely difficult to reach behind electrical housing, and the list goes on. 14 or 15 things that we find to change the procurement schedules. Something that was never reported on a hazard register. In white-collar work, I'm being asked by councils now to help provide advice about our mobile technologies because of the life cycle of its use. Cognitively, when is the right time to use some of this technology? Physically, what's the right way to use it, hold it, apply it? How do we transport it? What do we do in our vehicles? And if you are working in a system that is very strongly risk-based, well, okay, let's use that. From our health and our wellness literature, we know now that we're supposed to be aiming for at least 4 hours a day. Minimum to at least 4 hours a day of low-impact physical activity. And in that space, it's now evidential. Take that from your wellness teams, move it to your risk register, and lo and behold, you've got accountability to have to account for this in a design fashion. How are we allowing our workforce up to 4 hours a day if they're physically capable for low-impact physical activity? And these resources are in your bags. When I get a chance to walk through Lend-Lease, the new building in the Sunshine Coast, there's great sustainability, there's great aesthetics, but the very first question I say is, do we have a library of the job tasks and the activities that will be conducted and all of the variability, no, not error, variability that may occur with our workers? Penny drops. Usually I don't hear a thing. We're starting to see some standards now where we have an opportunity to address best practice, but the standards in the well-building standards talk more about biological safety. It's great. There's things like no smoking. And this is important because the smoking ordinances started 26 years ago, 1990, San Luis Obispo County. A girlfriend of mine was the mayor there. She passed the ordinance under her governance, the very first no smoking legislation in public spaces. In 1997, it was no vending machines sold and no smoking cigarettes to minors. But notice this, it takes change agents ready to stand up against the grain and create legislation and standards, and 26 years later, we're finally finding this occur now in our workspaces for best practice standards. This is the kind of thinking. So human-centered design is about leadership, it's about innovation, it's about asking ourselves if we want to move from fear to hope, and asking ourselves right now whether or not you wish to be that champion of change. Are we ready to do it? Thank you.